Hi guys, Amanda here, finally back with another process video. As you guys know, I'm a teacher, so it has been back to school mode for the last month, which has kept me pretty busy. I've also been working through the 100 days of less hustle, more Jesus, and I will link to my Instagram where you can see all of my daily entries on there. At Row Writes, and so that has kind of been what has been occupying my time lately, but I decided to get a little creative with my sermon notes from this last Sunday. It was all about being generous and having generosity in order to rescue others, and so the whole idea of having wild generosity is what came to my mind, and that is what I decided to kind of title this sermon entry and my inspiration for the pieces that I used. You can see here I just have an assortment of alphabets, and I'm going to spell out the word generosity, and then I will stamp out the word wild with one of the older Illustrated Faith kits. I'm using items from the Illustrated Faith print and pray shop. I'm also using some past kit stamps that are unfortunately no longer available, and then I am using some items from the Print Pray Slay website. It has now changed. It is now printprayslay.com. So make sure that you go and visit her new website. Kelly is doing a great job on there. I have some little labels that I'm using, as well as some beautiful florals that she has in her shop. Like I said, I will be sure to link everything down below. The word wild that I'm stamping is from the Wildflower Kit from Illustrated Faith. Like I said, I don't believe that it's available any longer, but I loved how the little scripted word wild kind of paired with the block letter of generosity and how that looked, and so I just kind of have that hanging off the edge of my paper and kind of layered on top of the words. And then I just have this floral from that same stamp set kind of in the background. I wanted it very subtle and very muted. You'll see as this page goes on that I color in some of the florals and I leave some of them black and white just as a background. And this grid label is from the Illustrated Faith Print Pray shop. That is where my date is going to go, and I love those grid labels just for some added color and texture. Here are my little Print Pray Slay little doodads here. I have the little word box with the lines that's going to house some of my title of each of my points. And then I have this beautiful floral that I'm going to put in the middle of my page to bring both pages together. I love cutting Kelly's elements out on clear sticker paper, especially these bigger items, because they can work as a background element or even as a focal point, as this one is going to be today. So I'm just cutting that out. It's on the clear sticker paper. I will link that below for you guys too. You know that's a favorite of mine on my channel, and it just kind of makes it blend right onto the page, and you can see that I'm fitting it right in the seam, like I said, just so it brings kind of both pages together. And then that little leaf is also from the Sloth set in Kelly's website, printprayslay.com. And I'm putting that as the background element of another one of those grid labels. Again, just creating some of that background look that I want, just kind of seeing where things are going to go and how I'm going to piece things together. I knew I wanted those background flowers in 3 different spots on the entry, and then this one in the middle, and then my 3 little grid spots, 1 for the date and then 2 for 2 of the main topics that were presented in the sermon. Now I am using the mega date stamp for the dates on this entry. I don't believe this particular mega date stamp is still available. I'm not sure. I do know that scrapbook.com might have some of the new generation available, but I absolutely love my mega date stamp. I love it for things like this where you want the date to kind of be part of an art element. I also love it in my illustrating Bible because the margins are so large in that Bible. So it's definitely something to think about. It is definitely an investment as well. But like I said, I love using mine and having it be another art element on the page. Now, my vision as I was putting this page together was to have 3 different focal points where my journaling was going to be and where my notes were going to be, because our pastors work in a 3-point sermon. So that was where I had those grid labels and the little circle dialogue boxes and circles and shapes from the Print Pray Slay site. That was where that was going to come in handy. And then I definitely knew that I wanted to add some more florals. And you'll see how I do that by creating journaling spots. I have seen Shauna Noel use this technique, and I believe that she saw it from Vanessa Walker, but I love the look of it, and I thought it just went perfectly for this type of sermon note. So I'm going to use florals as kind of the top decorative portion of my journaling box. And then you can see I just took my pen and I just did some squiggly lines kind of boxing in an area. I made sure to look at my notes to see which part of the sermon had more content in it, so then those boxes would be bigger. And this floral stamp is from the new Beloved Society stamp set, available at Dayspring. I will link that below. I love that floral. It's totally just super fun, and I just love it. And then this other floral that I am stamping on the page is also from that same stamp set, and they also have 2 different leaves that come with it, and so I chose this one. And you'll see how you can really customize these florals any way that you want, but I knew that I was going to want them as the top part of each of my journaling boxes. And now you can see on my page that I have 3 separate spots for the 3 main points that my pastor made. Next, I'm going to start utilizing some of that white space as well as some of my grid labels. And I'm going to be just putting the scripture reference on my pages, so then they're kind of another focal point aside from just adding them into my journaling box. I wanted it to have more of an artistic look, and so I'm just using the stencil from an old Illustrated Faith kit. You could get this same look with using any type of stencil with numbers, or you could even stamp your numbers. You'll see how I stamp the abbreviation for Proverbs in front of this journaling spot, just to kind of fill in the space a little bit more and add a little bit more color. And then from here, I'm able to just kind of start brainstorming how I want my notes to look. So I know in the top portion next to my date, I'm going to want the title of the sermon as well as the pastor who was giving it. And so that's what I included in the top. And then from there, I just utilized my notes that I took on my iPad, and I did each section in its own box. So the first one is talking about how generosity starts with God, and that we have a generous God. And it talks about being fully saturated, and that's what he wants in our life. And that's what generosity is in the Bible, is that it translates to being fully saturated. And he wants so much for us that it overflows into others. And that was what this whole sermon was about, was being generous in order to rescue other people. And then it talked about generosity transforms your heart, and to have an open-handed mentality as opposed to a closed fist mentality. So if you are open-handed with your generosity and you have an open hand to God, that also means that you have an open hand in order to receive. And that was such an eye-opening thing, is that he wants us to receive before we give. He wants us to have an open hand mentality. He knows that if he can trust us with little, then he can trust us with a lot. And so that was the second point that our pastor made. And then the final thought was generosity fuels the mission. So it talked about Proverbs 11:10 and how when the godly people succeed, then everyone celebrates and cheers for those successes. And he talked about how sometimes that does not always feel true. Like, we aren't super excited for everyone at every point in time, but it's talking about the godly people. And so when people are imitating God's character and are emulating that, then that is something that the whole city can benefit from, and we're then the benefactors of that success. And so then it does end up really fueling us and fueling the whole mission, and we do see that there is something bigger for us. And so those are just the points that I'm getting down into those journaling boxes that I made, and I was super excited that everything that I wanted to have come down fit perfectly in there. And so I'm just highlighting the main topics. I'm using that green color to bring in where I had the date, and so then that kind of all came together. Finishing it up today, guys, with just some little art marks on the page as I finish up my journaling. I do see that I have some blank space off to the left, and so I wrote down this quote that our pastor said that said, "It's about participation and not a percentage." And so as long as we're giving with our whole hearts, that's really what God wants for us. And remember that He wants something for us and not from us. And I really loved getting these notes down into my traveler's notebook. I hope you guys liked this process. If this is something that you want to continue seeing on my channel, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell. So on the days when I do decide to post a video, you guys are the first to see. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, like I said earlier, at Row Writes. Definitely check out the links down below if there's something that you're interested in, and let me know if you guys have any comments or questions, and I'll be happy to help. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.